So, Alex, you are the prospective parliamentary candidate for Leeds North West. Thank you for coming to join us today. How are you feeling to start? What's your vibe of the election so far?
There are a lot of people that are genuinely not sure what they're going to do, are generally conflicted, because, on one issue they feel one thing, and another issue they feel another thing, and different parties obviously have different positions on those issues. So there is, I'd say, this is more so than 2017, 2015, the most difficult to predict election that I've been involved in on the ground, for sure.
Okay, we'll just start off with perhaps the most pertinent question regarding the election. You abstained from the vote on actually having the general election.
Yes.
Just for the viewers at home, could you tell us why the reason
Well,
behind
it's very simple. So I voted actually because there were 3 votes that day. So I voted on the first vote to have the election. Then we had we tabled quite a lot of amendments. I signed amendments on votes 16 and 17. I signed amendments on EU citizens having rights to vote, particularly in this election that's really important, and also on the election being on the 9th of December, not the 12th of December. Only the one around the 9th of December got chosen by the Deputy Speaker, who's now the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, and we lost that vote fairly narrowly. And then I felt that, one, we'd been rushed through this one-line bill too quickly. We hadn't had time to debate the amendments. We weren't able to vote on the amendments. So I wasn't going to block the election, but I didn't feel that I could support the election on those terms, because I felt that we were having an election on Boris Johnson's terms.
If you do get elected on December 12th,
Yep.
What will you do to ensure the safety of international students?
Well, I think it's very important that we don't create, and I know it's a overused term, a hostile environment for people, whether they're students or whether people coming here to work or because they're joining their family, for immigrants. My parents were immigrants to this country to study here at the university like international students now, and it was quite hostile because there were much fewer international students at the University of Leeds when they arrived and when I was born, because I was born when there were students here. And I think that it's really important that politicians like me don't use language that could create an atmosphere in society. And I don't think I have. Actually, I'm very strongly supported the rights of migrants, refugees, asylum seekers in this country, and that we actually create a framework where people are welcomed.
You mentioned language and the way that politicians use it.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you're aware, there's been a lot of anti-Semitic abuse on social media in the name of kind of Jeremy Corbyn, your party leader. Do you think yourself and other politicians have done enough to speak out and change how that's going?
Well, I've been the victim of anti-Semitic abuse on social media, including from political opponents in the constituency. And so it's, and we've got the instance in Leeds North East where the Conservative Party candidate is no longer the Conservative Party candidate because of anti-Semitic comments he made in the past. And I think that all forms of racism are absolute scourge in our society. The rising spectre of anti-Semitism has come more strongly in the last few years. As a Jew, I feel that quite strongly. The Labour Party adopted the International Holocaust Remembrance Association definition of anti-Semitism, a very strong definition of anti-Semitism. I moved that motion in the Parliamentary Labour Party, and then it was subsequently adopted by the NEC. I've worked very hard around disciplinary processes, including reporting instances of anti-Semitism by people I knew were members of the Labour Party, and the majority of those have been dealt with through suspension or expulsion from the party. But there is, still a long way to go. I've repeatedly called for a change in our disciplinary process, so there isn't an elected committee overseeing the cases of anti-Semitism in particular, but I think actually it's a wider issue than just anti-Semitism in politics, around race, around sexual harassment, and other issues, disciplinary issues. And I think that we need to have independent panel of experts to undertake that, which would be expensive, but it would, I think, help us resolve the issue, because it would take out any partisan involvement in that decision making, and that independence thing is important to give people a sense that the political parties take it serious. Nobody else has an independent panel, so we would be the first as well. But I think that's the one thing that I've repeatedly called for, and I hope that we'll get to see, obviously not before the 12th of December, because we're obviously in the middle of an election campaign, but after that, and I'll carry on campaigning for that. And the other things that I've campaigned for up to this point have all happened, so I am confident that will happen as well.
Moving a bit more locally, transport is one of your central issues, and we see money being funneled into projects like HS2, which, yes, is a benefit to the north, but we see the Tory party promising a link between Manchester and Leeds, which is much more specific to the local area. What can you personally and the Labour Party offer to Leeds specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I've been supporting Northern Powerhouse Rail, or whatever you want to call, a high-speed link for the north from Hull to Liverpool for a long time. But, I mean, those big infrastructure projects, most students watching this will probably be in the middle of their working lives by the time they're complete. I think in Leeds, we need some real short-term gains. So for a start, we need to first to selling the bus company, which most students use, the 1, the 28, the 6, etc. And I've been campaigning for the West Yorkshire Combined Authority to buy first bus group in West Yorkshire and run the buses. And that would mean that we get integrated ticketing, contactless integrated ticketing for bus and train. That means we could run night buses. That means, which would create student safety, means that we could implement different fare structures. So, for instance, the student fares, like we've had a lot of volunteers obviously going right through the constituency, and the student fares, end at Oxley. But actually, why shouldn't students go to Otley or go to other parts of West Yorkshire and travel on student fare? There's no reason. It's just an artificial fare that First have created. So all those things could happen. And obviously, if Labour win the election, bus travel for under 25s would be free, like for older people. And I think that will also be a huge boon and increase passenger numbers on public transport. The biggest thing is to increase the number of buses, the quality of the buses, and the number of people riding on them. And also have better integration between the buses and the trains. The other thing that I'm campaigning for, although it won't be a direct benefit to students, although it might be to international students, is a train station which will link to the airport, but it'll also, much more importantly for me, have a big park and ride. So people from the north of the city will go and park at that park and ride and get on a train, which take them 9 minutes to get into the city centre rather than sitting in the car for 45 minutes. And that means those cars that currently come through Headingley, which pollute our air. We've got some of the worst air quality outside London, going up the A660, going Potley Road, will improve our air quality. And I'm really passionate about, one, improving our transport infrastructure, but two, improving our air quality, because it will have an effect on quality of life and on longevity in the area. And we've got 5 schools just within meters of that road.
You mentioned renationalising the public transport in Leeds. I've been here for 3 years, and every year bus ticket prices have gone up and up and up. Could you guarantee a fall of ticket prices, or at least a freeze of prices?
Yeah, we say renationalising, so it wouldn't be national. It wouldn't be the national government running the bus service. It would be local public body running them, and I think absolutely that would happen. I mean, also, for most students, obviously there are mature students over the age of 25, but they wouldn't be paying any fares at all. So it would be a huge cost saving students. That pass, which they could use on all the buses in Leeds or West Yorkshire more generally, and at home. So like older people have been, what we've seen actually is a shift in older people from using their cars to going on the bus because it's free. And even though they complain about the bus service and they're right to, they will still use it because they're not paying. And I think we'll see the same thing. We'll see a movement of ridership. I mean, some of it may be slightly negative because maybe some people that walk now might go on the bus, which actually is better for the environment if they walk. But swings and roundabouts and all that. But I think absolutely we'll see a huge improvement in the bus services, bus ridership, and we'll have those free buses and a reduction in fares for others.
And on the environment, you have been vocal about your support of Extinction Rebellion. Yeah. You said, I believe in the Yorkshire Post, that your personal safety is less important than the planet's welfare.
It is, yeah.
People have been unable to kind of get to shifts, they've been unable to get to hospitals. What is the limit with Extinction Rebellion? When is it too much?
I think as long as Extinction Rebellion are acting lawfully, and there's obviously this interesting case in London with the Met, that it was found that the Met weren't acting lawfully in their prohibition of Extinction Rebellion's protests and the arrests, etc. I think that's okay, but I think that it is obviously very difficult if the ambulance have to drive further, that public transport is inconvenienced, and so I think when the planning of these protests are made, the absolute maximum effort has to be made not to put, one, people's lives in danger, obviously, and two, to stop working people getting to work.
And just on that one, what do you think it's going to take for the government to take notice?
Well, I mean, I think this election, unfortunately, is being dominated by Brexit. But in the long term, climate is a much more important issue. This needs to be a climate election. The Labour Party has put forward a Green Industrial Revolution plan, which would, in the next 10 years, radically alter how life is in the UK.
And finally, why should students vote for you?
I think that this last 2.5 years, I have been committed to things I said I'd do in the 2017 election. I realised a lot of students weren't here then, although some were, which is to fight for a public vote, to fight, actually once we get that public vote, to stay in the EU, which I'm absolutely committed to do, to look after student interests. I've done lots of casework around poor quality housing. We haven't really talked about that, about the housing issue, about the fact that we've got landlords in the constituency who are providing poor quality housing who are still, doing illegal deductions on deposits or retaining deposits. We've done a lot of work around that and improving the quality of the housing. The transport, you've already heard me talk about, and things I'm going to do about transport, and the Labour commitment, particularly on the under-25 bus passes. But I'd say, most importantly, I was a student here. I've continued over the years to fight for the issues that matter to students at the University of Leeds, Leeds Beckett University, and in Headingley and Hyde Park. And, I've been consistent, even though I've had pressures from those people outside the student body to vote different ways on Brexit, to vote different ways, for instance, on women's right to choose and other issues. I've been consistently progressive in those issues, extending same-sex marriage and women's right to choose to Northern Ireland, for instance, in the last 2 years. So I think that I've got a progressive record supporting students and supporting our position in Europe, and that's why I think people should vote for me.
Well, thank you, Alex, for making time to speak to us. And if you'd like to know what all of the other candidates in Leeds North West and in Leeds Central think, then make sure you come along to our hustings on Thursday night to hear from all of the candidates about why you should vote for them.